Red cups and sweaty bodies everywhere. Hands in the air like we don't care. 'Cause we came to have so much fun now. Bet somebody here might get some now. And if you ain't ready to go home, can I get a hell no? 'Cause we gonna go all night till we see sunlight, alright. So la-da-dee-da-dee, we like to party, dancing with Miley, doing whatever we want. This is our house, this is our rules, and we can't stop, and we won't stop. Can you see it's we who run the night? Can you see it's we who build that light? And we can't stop, and we won't stop. We run things, things don't run we. We don't take nothing from nobody. Yeah, it's our party, we can do what we want. Hey everybody, happy Friday. Just a little motivational music to keep going with everything Apecoin related. We've got Amp here, Maria's here. I think we're waiting on a few more folks, so thanks for everybody's patience. Amp, I don't know if you've got people in your DMs that you're sending up.
Yeah, I'm trying to invite Mitchell right now.
Cool.
Damn, I like the music vibes. That was a very nice and pleasant way to enter the space.
Yeah, well, it's just some chill jams because we're just having a conversation that's casual and fun, and I appreciate you being here today. So I see Mitchell's up, and I think for now, let's see, hold on. Yeah, that might be everybody. Just kidding, we're waiting for one more.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's okay, we can get started. So just as a quick overview for anybody who's joining for the first time, I want to say this is our third or fourth edition of this space. We've been trying to get into a regular rhythm of talking about Apecoin proposals, adding context to things that people will eventually be able to vote on. Reading AIPs is sometimes a little bit of a tedious exercise, and if you're newer to the Apecoin community, sometimes it can be a little complicated. So the point of these spaces is to lend an additional voice to proposals from the authors for people to ask questions, and it's just run by a bunch of people who are early Apecoin community members, people who were in the BAYC ecosystem really early, and anybody who wants to raise their hand and help. So a bunch of us have raised our hands and wanted to create these spaces, and we want to keep doing them. And it's awesome to have Maria here today from the Apecoin board joining us to talk through one of them. So with that, as always, as I've said in the last few sessions, it's really cool when people put themselves out there. It can be brutal to put out a proposal, have people dissect it, run you through the ringer. So, be kind to anybody who does it. It's a lot. It takes a lot of work, and it can be psychologically challenging to go through it with a smile. So everybody who's done it already, kudos to them. Anybody who wants to do it, we encourage that, and we've been trying to help those who are interested in putting together proposals. Amp, any just kind of general tips or overall sort of process points worth bringing up for anybody who is considering participating from a proposal standpoint?
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to briefly just go over the AIP process and how it works. I like to do this at the start of every AIP roundup that we do. So typically the way it works is someone will post an idea in the forums. You can either do it as in the general tag, or you can do it as an AIP idea. And then people, that gives the community a 7-day opportunity where they can leave their feedback and suggest any kind of changes they might want to see. After that, it'll move into the draft phase, where again, there's another 7 days of feedback for both the community and also the special counsel. So they go through their own separate review process. After it's been through both the special counsel and the community drafting phase, it'll move straight into snapshot, assuming everything is looking good with everybody. And then it'll be up on snapshot for a week where we can deliberate and we can vote and all that good stuff. I did also want to say that the whole purpose of having these spaces, the AIP Roundups board touched on this a bit, is just for educational purposes only. We're not here to advocate for one side or the other in any circumstance. So just keep that in mind. With that said, I think we can get started talking directly with Maria. If you want to come up and speak a little bit about your bug bounty campaign and then how that might work, and we can get into some of the questions that I've gotten from the community.
Amazing. Well, first, thank you both to Board and AMP for hosting these spaces. It's amazing. It's such a good opportunity for people to know what's happening, and thank you both for spearheading this. This is awesome. So let me just introduce myself a little bit for folks who are maybe new to the space or who don't know about me or who I am. So I'm Maria. I'm a member of the Special Council. I also like to think of myself as an active community member. So I've worked actually on a few different proposals. You know, this bug bounty program is not just my first one. You know, we got a Gitcoin grants program and ETH-SF hackathon proposal passed a few weeks ago. So Apecoin will be at ETH-SF, which I think is like, you know, the ETH Global puts on these ETH hackathons multiple times a year. So many great projects from the community sort of participate in it. So like, you know, Uniswap, Lens, whoever it might be. And it's a really great way to get active developers thinking about building on Apecoin and actually giving them like, you know, making sure that they keep Apecoin top of mind and we can continue to build more products, services, tools, whatever it might be for growing our community. I also did a delegation proposal because the current delegation system uses Snapshot, which isn't a great UI because there's no way to identify potential delegates or who you align with. And so we've been working on a new delegate UI interface where that'll make it a lot easier for people to find delegates who are aligned with them. You know, delegation I think is really important because not everyone has the time to go through all of the AIPs or to participate in governance. It does take time, thought, resources. And so being able to delegate to someone who's aligned with you is like a great way to still have your voice heard. And so that, just to give everyone an update on where that is, because I don't think I've given anyone an update yet, but all of the wireframes have been done. The UI has been scoped out. It's actually going to be a really great system. So rather than having to apply as a delegate on Discourse and then the actual delegation happens somewhere else, we're actually going to do it all in one interface. So it's super clean, really easy, very clear. And so I'm very, very excited about that. And then, you know, I have another proposal that's sort of hasn't gone up for a vote yet, but it's for an Apecoin sponsored Meebits Prop House. And so I'm really excited about that one because one, I think what Nouns and Prop House are doing are like very incredible. And I think this is a way for us to bring in other NFT communities into like Apecoin and really start, you know, branching out of our current NFT communities. So I'm an active community member, and I participate and I care deeply about the Apecoin ecosystem. And so let's talk about the current Apecoin bug bounty program. So the way that this kind of came about, I mean, I write this weekly newsletter called Crypto Weekly. I've actually been writing it since 2017. Every Sunday, you know, I'll summarize like a lot of what's happening, all the news that happened, you know, over the last week, and I'll just send it every Sunday on a really easy way for people to keep up to date with what's happening, with the most important stuff. More recently, what I've been seeing is like the number of hacks or you know, smart contract bugs that have been found. I mean, it continues to grow. I think Chainalysis had a report out a few weeks ago that 2022 is on pace to be the biggest year of hacks ever. Right, so we're already at 3 billion, and I believe 2021 was about 3.1 billion, which is a real bummer. But it's also kind of a feature, I want to say, of blockchain technology in general, right? Because the way that blockchain works is it's an immutable record. So there's no, you know, if you send an illicit, if you send a transaction or you're hacked, there's no way to get that money back. And that is by design, but that is by design of sort of blockchain in general. But the way that I think about it is if that is a feature, not a bug of blockchain technology, I think we are responsible to protect ourselves and implement as much infrastructure as we can to sort of stop stop that from happening. And so there's a few different ways that we can do it, right? So there's these bug bounty programs. There are obviously smart contract audits. There are educational programs. So Boring Security, they have an educational program that people can opt into. That's like a 1 or 2 hour security course, so people can know exactly what they know how to better keep all of their NFTs and all of their tokens secure. So there's a lot of different ways that we can implement programs or infrastructure that can keep users safe. And the intent with this bug bounty program was to implement one well-known tactic for protocols to implement. Um, so that's high level, like how I was thinking about it. I mean, the draft AIP today. So it's currently in draft mode, and so my goal with this conversation is to actually kind of really use this as a working session, or like to educate all of us from someone who's more of an expert on the specifics of how to implement these programs in a really good way. And so then when, like, my goal is this weekend, after we'll figure out what the exact right structure is, and then we can kind of come to consensus on that, and then it'll go up for vote hopefully on Thursday. And so my goal with this conversation is to really have it be sort of a working session, to figure out what we need to put in place, how it would look, and then the community gets to vote on whether or not they want to implement it or not when it goes to snapshot, right? So I can only give my best recommendation, but really the power is in the Apecoin token holders to decide what it is that we do, if we do it or if we don't. In general, though, my personal opinion is that staking is 15% of our token supply, and so the stakes to me are really high, and so it's important that we are thoughtful and making sure that our members are as secure as possible. And so I think a bug bounty program is a very effective and easy way for us to at least like cover our bases, right? So with that, I mean, I would love to introduce Mitchell. So Mitchell actually, he's the CEO of Immunify. Immunify is a big bug bounty service provider, I would say. And Mitchell, you can probably like describe it better than I can. But he very kindly reached out and offered their support and their help in helping us construct this program, with the caveat that I totally understand that any delays are terrible, and obviously we don't want that. And so is there a way that we can actually structure this still in a way where there aren't any delays, right? Or maybe only like a small delay, but we still implement this and we can ensure that we're protecting users in the right way. So long story short, Mitchell, I'll turn it over to you if you want to introduce yourself and Immunify and what you guys do.
Hopefully you're there, Mitchell. We can't hear you.
I'm trying to request how to speak.
You're good. We hear you now.
Ah, it's working? Marvelous.
Yep.
Okay, so my name is Mitchell Amador. I'm the founder and CEO of Immunify. We're the major bug bounty platform for DeFi applications in the space more generally, but that has expanded to a lot of different crypto applications. You can think of us as a giant 911 in reverse for this space. So our job is to surface as many critical vulnerabilities, specifically critical is what we specialize in, critical vulnerabilities before that they can be exploited, and to funnel them to exactly the right person in as short as time as humanly possible so that they can be mitigated and fixed. And everything that we do at Immunify is based around these issues as specifically applied to blockchain, right? We don't do anything other than that. Now, I was called in to take a look at the situation by some fellow community members. They had some concerns, namely there's such a short time frame on doing this, and yet security is so incredibly valuable. There's going to be a ton of value that's going to be flowing into these staking contracts. There's a lot on the line. There's a lot of high expectations for them. So what exactly is the right approach, right? What is the best practice for running a bug bounty program? How should the Apecoin community be thinking about their staking contracts and how to secure them? And I kind of wanted to dive into that just to show everybody what it would mean in practice, how long it would take, what the commitments are, and what the trade-offs are. Does that
Before
sound like something
Yeah,
reasonable to dive in on,
before
or?
you jump into that, Mitchell, actually, I think it would be really valuable to just understand, like why bug bounty programs are implemented and maybe some of the success stories around them. Because I know that, so like Ethereum Foundation, Uniswap, like everyone has like these kind of standard ongoing bug bounty programs. Like it feels like pretty table stakes. But maybe you can just talk a little bit about why, how that came to be, and also what they're like, what we should expect from the bug bounty program. Because one thing that I also do want to make clear to the community is bug bounty program doesn't reduce technology risk to zero, right? Technology risk and smart contract risk and interface risk will always exist. This is just one of the tools that we have to sort of reduce that risk. So I would love maybe just high level if you could talk about bug bounty programs in general, and then we can go into the specifics of what we do with this one.
Sure. So a bug bounty program is just a massive prize, right? It's a contract, it's a request for the community at large to engage in massive crowdsourced code review and to surface any of their findings through an agreed upon channel. Okay, that's all it is. You can think of it as a giant contest for getting the entire security community to work together and find bugs before they can be exploited. Now, we develop these basically on the same principle that we do audits, right? You go through, let's say, the standard security stack for a DeFi project of any kind, or even most crypto projects in general, right? You've got your internal QA resources. That's the first thing you do. That would be like guys like Horizon Labs, who are working very, very hard to write very, very secure software. They have all sorts of manual testing to do. They have automated testing, but that's not enough. And so then you go to an auditor, in this case, Halborn, right? You go to an auditor who provides the same kind of service, but maybe they have even more souped up automated tooling. Maybe they have even better security engineers. So you're getting that extra set of eyes and all that extra expertise applied to it so that you can feel more confident, more safe that what you've built is really secure. But we don't stop there, right? The bug bounty program is the next evolution, the logical step after an audit, where you say, okay, we've thrown all this time, all this energy, all this incredible brain power at securing this code. How about we let the entire world participate in the same process? And so you design this massive program, again, basically a contest, outlining all the rules by which someone can earn money in exchange for their contributions. Now, it's become table stakes, right? It didn't used to be table stakes in the industry. It's become table stakes because they've proven so damn effective, especially over the last few years, especially with the rise of more and more complex derivatives of various kinds and coins and applications, DeFi especially. That has driven the development of bug bounty programs because we've seen all these cases where audits failed. And it wasn't because the auditors weren't good, right? The auditors, in many cases, are some of the most brilliant engineers in the entire space, but they miss things too. They miss things too. It is impossible to write fully secure code. That is a very, very high standard that almost nobody, even the best engineers in our industry, meet. And so people started launching these bug bounty programs to deal with the fact that you now had hundreds of millions or billions of dollars at risk. And they worked. They worked amazingly well. For example, in Unify alone, we had a series of multi-billion-dollar cases where if the hacker wished, they could steal billions of dollars, and they chose not to. They found the vulnerabilities incentivized by the prize. They disclosed it. They were paid millions of dollars for their contributions. And as a result, millions of users around the world were saved billions of dollars in losses. So we have incidents, for example, with Polygon and their staking contracts that were used effectively in this way. We have incidents with Wormhole, of course, the bridge. That saved $700 million in that particular incident. We have incidents with a great many DeFi projects in the space, usually protecting the totality of their TVL with insurance projects, even with other security products. We work with people like Open Zeppelin on their libraries, or Forduck, some of the best security firms in the space, but even they use bug bounties because we've seen over and over and over again that bugs are going to make it to mainnet code for sure. You just have to bet on it. It just happens. And
Mitchell,
you need a way to source defense against that.
question for you, Mitchell, and that's really good background. I think a lot of people probably in this room, I mean, have been impacted by a hack of some sort. I know I have. So, to me, I see the upside here when it comes to that one person who, might see the potential upside for them individually to exploit and get a bunch of money. What's the psychology of a bug bounty program luring them to the light side, right, to the good side? And the harder question, I guess, is like, is it a monetary thing? Is there a certain amount of money that basically is going to convince somebody to do the right thing? Or have you seen, other factors at play where somebody could have, exploited a community for a lot of money and then ended up not doing it?
Sure. What's the psychology of a hacker, basically? Why do they do this? Well, this takes us really into the case of, what does a program run well look like? How does that work? And the core ideas is, and this will illustrate the mindset of the hacker, a really effectively designed program. It's very clear, it's very simple, it has very compelling financial rewards, and it has compelling social rewards as well. So that the hackers, in many cases, they want to do good, or at least they'd like to help people that they happen to like. But money is a factor too. If you put, $200 million in front of them, it's the world's largest temptation, right? It's that 200 million they can walk away. It's an amazing temptation. So we battle that by having very compelling rewards, where we can say, look, 200 is a lot, but $2 million in clean money, right? In legal money that you can go buy a house with, that you can go buy a car with, whatever you want to do, that's worth a lot too. And we give them very, very simple and clear rules. And look, you can trust us to give it to you because we work with this provider, because we write out the rules like this, because this is how we're going to determine if it's valid or not, so you can see that we're going to treat you well. Huh? And it comes with the social element. And if you do that, we will glorify you. This is something we spend a lot of time on in Unify, glorifying the hackers, making them appreciated for their work, which really does make a big difference in encouraging people, in which the Apecoin community can do as well. How do we make these people feel respected, admired, and appreciated for the heroes that they in fact are, by resisting the temptation to steal the money and instead protecting the rest of us? So we have to constantly battle these. Now, we're not always going to win, right? Sometimes a hack will happen anyways because someone values money above all else, and the money that they could steal will be worth more. But for most people, they value other things too, and we can create a basket of rewards that together is more valuable than running away with a huge sum of money and being a criminal for the rest of your life. Does that add a little context?
Yeah, that's super helpful. I mean, I think it's important just for people to understand the gravity of what could happen and what you can stop from happening. Because at the upfront, it's kind of like, you're spending money, you're not necessarily getting. If you succeed, then nothing happens, right? It's like insurance. You hope you never have to use it, but if you're in a position where you did, you're glad you have it at that moment. So that's the challenge here. But we are talking about a very visible, initiative with a significant amount of money attached to it, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of participants. So I think that's, largely what Maria wanted to, get across and putting this proposal together, that it's important to protect it. That's my personal opinion, not representative of anybody else's. So cool. So does it make sense to dive into the proposal a little bit further in detail so everybody understands how you recommend blowing it out, and then just, any sort of important implications to consider?
Yeah, Mitchell, I would love to hear from you, because like you've constructed so many of these different programs, and I know you have the context of staking. So maybe we just kick it off to you and hear how you would think about it. Like, one, maybe how we would set this up, what the process kind of looks like, and then also just like best practices and like your recommendations on how people structure these programs.
If I could just jump in before that, just because I really wanted to address some of the biggest concerns that I've seen a lot coming up. Generally, the vibe that I'm getting from the community isn't that the bug bounty is a bad idea. It's mostly just the delay of staking. So if you could talk a little bit about maybe like how you would be able to implement a guarded launch, like you mentioned in the discourse, where we don't have to delay staking, but we can have the best of both worlds.
Sure thing. Sure thing. Okay. Let's start with the case in question, right? So we have these Apecoin staking contracts. Everybody's excited about proceeding with them, but we're, 7 days and a bit away from launch, which is a pretty tight schedule. What can we do about that? Well, ideally, in an ideal world, we would have the bug bounty program out as soon as the contracts were launched, as soon as people could see them, as soon as people could play with them, so that before anybody put any value into those contracts, there would be an opportunity for the security community to analyze them and find potential vulnerabilities. Now, the more time they have to do that before value enters the contracts, the happier we'll be, right? As a general best practice, if we had 30 days, that would probably be ideal. And then at that point, you've done your best before money actually moves into the system. We don't quite have that timeline, so we're going to have to figure out how to adapt to that. The trick that we're going to hit with this, the challenge is that setting up a program takes effort and expertise. Okay? So we have to design the program, we have to design the rules, we have to design the rewards, we have to set up the team that's going to be processing the bug reports. They all have to be trusted parties. Like, it's going to take a little bit of work. We have to do it back and forth to make sure that the program is well designed, because if it's poorly designed, hackers won't want to engage with it because it'll be untrustworthy. And all that is going to take, some effort. Now, my thought is to proceed with the launch of the staking contracts as quickly as possible while getting the security benefits. We have, I think, two reasonable options. So one of them is to launch a bug bounty program as soon as we possibly can. On our side at Immunify, we'd be happy to help with the whole setup, onboarding, launch of that in order to go on the fastest timeline, but it's still going to be work. And we still have to get it through voting, so it's going to take a little bit of time. We get that set up as fast as we possibly can, and we let the hackers go at it, and we give as much space as we can justify for that crowdsourced code review from the whole world to proceed before value enters the contract. So there's this one option where we launch the program as quickly as we can, and then we use the time between the launch of the program and the allocation of rewards to the staking contract in order to do the first round of code review. The other thought that I suggested was the guarded launch. I'm not sure the guarded launch will work so well in this case. In other circumstances, it would have, but there needs to be some check. A guarded launch is when you limit the amount of funds that can go into a contract under certain time periods, for example. And that way, we could say for the first, 4 weeks, only $5 million is allowed to enter the contract. And even if there is a serious bug, there's a very, tight limit on the amount of damage that can be done. And this creates more space to work. That requires smart contract work. So I don't think it's going to be possible, or I'm not sure if it's going to be possible in this case. We'd have to take a look. And so for that reason, just getting the program out and experimenting with how long, what the timer is on where rewards come in is probably the smarter move.
Can you start? So the way that it's currently projected to go is like 1031. The smart contract, I believe, is going to be published to mainnet because it's currently on testnet, so it's publicly available. So everyone can go and look at the documentation. They can play around with the smart contract on testnet, but it's going live on mainnet, I believe, on 1031. And then with the expectation that there's going to be like a 2-week sort of commit period where users can use the interface, understand the dynamics of, committing your NFT into one of the pools, or doing naked staking where it's just the Apecoin that you're committing, or that you're staking. That would take place 2 weeks later. And so for a bug bounty program, I have two questions. One, can it start? Does it start? Can it be done starting with testnet? That's one question. And then my second question is, does the bug bounty program only cover the smart contract, or does it cover sort of like the whole system, like including the GUI?
Great question. So yes, it can be done from testnet, and ideally it would be, right? Ideally, for a month in advance when the contracts are just on testnet, it would all be visible there. Not super relevant in this case, but we can do that kind of thing. And so like our major gate on launching the program is just the readiness, going through the whole process and building it, because as long as the contracts are open source, we can start funneling attention and security talent to go and take a look at that.
Yeah,
So that's the
but
first
like
step.
we can't guarantee the payouts until it's approved by until it goes through the proposal process and it's approved, right? Because if we're talking, I don't know how much you recommend we put into this, but like if we're talking about 1 million Apecoin, that's something that the DAO has to approve before we can commit any resources to it.
That's correct, and that's probably the real gate, right? Because on our side, we could probably help you guys draft something pretty fast, but the money needs to be there. You don't want a hacker to find a critical vulnerability and do a great job, and then the vote doesn't go through, and then be stuck in a rough spot. So that's the practical gate. The second part, okay. So on the interfaces are also an attack vector, right? The smart contracts are the most severe attack vector because all the money's going to be there. So whether there's $1 or $1 billion, right? If someone compromises the staking contracts, they might be able to steal all of it. And that's the thing we have to protect the most. And that's the thing we have to focus any program on. And there will never be too much protection on that asset. And that protection should never end, right? Any bug bounty program for defending that staking contract and any similar contracts that hold a lot of value should basically be always on forever, because you never know if something changes or a vulnerability from the past somehow slips through everybody's fingers. That's happened before.
Or a new vulnerability is discovered somehow.
That's correct. And especially if people start adding other utility or interfacing different types of contracts with the staking in funny ways, strange things can happen. I mean, we've seen it all with derivative assets and more complex composability between contracts. So, as your product evolves, your security has to evolve with it. The second part, on the front ends. The front ends are tricky. So they're much easier to protect against, right? They're much easier to protect as assets. However, there's going to be more of them. They're very different. So at Immunify, we do deal with a lot of front-end stuff as well. We have a whole crew of web hackers who specifically focus on that kind of thing. But I think the Apecoin community needs to decide on that when and how they're ready to support front-end security, right? Because you need to make sure that if you are effectively funding the security of this front end, whoever owns that front end, you trust and you are committed to, because someone may well find something. And I think a little bit of thought has to go on there. For that reason, I would suggest, at least for the first version of the program, narrowing the scope to the most important asset, the contracts, and then we can figure out, with time, with iteration, how we want to add the front ends. But they're absolutely important once staking actually opens up and people start setting in their assets.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, actually, also, because this proposal specifically is focused narrowly around AIP 2221, just in the interest of time. But we should also be considering a broader program that can more holistically encapsulate, basically give a framework to anyone who wants to build within the Apecoin community who might have a smart contract or anything that at some point puts Apecoin maybe at potential risk, that we can give them a resource that they can go to where, okay, this is best practice. you can run this audit, and then you do a bug bounty, and like we have a collective pool that's kind of going towards those kind of programs. Obviously, that takes a lot of thought, structure, and I think that'll be a more of a longer term initiative. But I just wanted to highlight that because I think a broader program is very, very important, that we should also be everyone should be aware of and thinking about.
So Maria, I know that you plan to take some of the feedback you get from the spaces to edit your draft proposal. Are you, or I guess I should just ask in the context, assuming that nothing changes and it is sent to Snapshot as it's written, Vulcan had a question: what would be the criteria for determining when to end the bug bounty and then opening everything up?
Yep. So the way that I wrote it is like there was going to be 2 to 4, basically. Okay, so there's the bug bounty program for this AIP will be, I think it should be funded in perpetuity. Like, so because to Mitchell's point, I mean, there are always new attack vectors and we just always have to be safe. So the question that I was really asking around the 2 to 4, the time frame of 2 to 4 weeks was, okay, once we figure out the right parameters and the right structure of the program, and we can start, pushing the contest up and opening it to the community, how long do we run the program before the contract is funded? And so that's really the focus of sort of the 2 to 4 weeks. That was the general suggestion. Like, do we have the bug bounty program run for 2 weeks before staking goes live, the staking contract is funded, or 4 weeks before the staking contract is funded? I know in the interest of time, obviously 2 weeks is going to be better for getting staking out, but to Mitchell's point, like 30 days is like a good time horizon to do it in. And so there are some trade-offs that we'll have to think about there. So when the proposal goes to Snapshot, so it will not go to Snapshot or be official in its current version. It does need to be refined. It does need to be more specific. And so before it goes to Snapshot, we will have those parameters in place, whether it's we're recommending a two-week program before it goes live, and then it just continues in perpetuity, or 4 weeks that we're requesting before it goes live in perpetuity. And so that was the thought process around that. I will say I do think it's very important that we have some program in place before the contract goes live. And I understand that given the timelines here, that might delay it by like a week or two. But to me, just the value that's going to be in this smart contract is worth having, like giving people time to find the bugs before it goes live.
Awesome, thank you.
Maria, I got a question in my DMs, which I will try to ask you in the most diplomatic way possible. So we talked about Horizon obviously doing everything they can to audit their code, make sure everything is perfect, for lack of better terms. One question I would say that keeps coming up is, what's to stop them, or, does it make sense for them to do a bug bounty program as well? Or is there any particular reason why that doesn't make sense from, Mitchell or Maria?
Yeah, well, so the original AIP didn't include a funding for a bug bounty program. So the reality is they could run the program and be, provide all the logistics and operational stuff that's going to go into structuring the program. And I hope that they will be a part of that process. But the bug bounty program requires funding, right? So the contest, the reason why these participants are finding these bugs is because there is a financial value attached to it. And so the scope of AIP 21-22 did not include funding for it. And so this is really a request for funding that kind of program.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it would be a line item from a vendor, right? And it would just be passing through. So in a way, this is providing funding that is needed for the bounty. Certainly wouldn't expect a vendor to, take that out of their own pocket. So thank you for that answer. I appreciate it.
So I brought up Giacomo. He's got some feedback and questions for you guys. For anyone that's not aware, Giacomo's the person who put the current live AIP for the staking process with caps. I think it's AIP 21.
Thank you, Amplify, for the invite, and also thank you to board.eth. Thanks to Maria and Mitchell. Very, very clear and interesting conversation. I think good ideas are never late. In fact, I am in favor of this bounty program. At the same time, I just wish to make one comment and then one question for the AIP. I believe that also the position of part of the community about the timing is important and is a legitimate position that as the AIP had a precise timeline, like 4 months. As long as until last week nobody in the community raised these requirements, so I don't think that it was very straightforward and crystal clear that we had to have also a bounty program for the implementation of the AIP, and also a professional company like Oris and the auditor, both they are very professional. So I believe we should respect the position of part of the community about the timing. In this case, in this way, I would suggest that in the AP of Maria, we can specify very clearly about the timing. For example, within 1 month of the staking of the bounty start, I believe we should mention explicitly when the staking will go live, and also if there is an engagement time to specify it. Because, for example, in the AP21, the engagement time for the bidding process was more or less 2 months, which was very long, I believe, for everybody. I would also suggest that if we already think that Immunify can be the supplier, the vendor, and it seems very professional for that, probably the AP can be already structured to directly engage this vendor, Immunify, to save time for the process of the bidding. That's my.
I appreciate you coming up here, and thank you for the comments and the feedback. So I totally agree with you. The timing isn't great, but I also this space evolves so quickly, and so at least for me personally, audits were always standard, right? And it was always something like I always thought, okay, so once it gets audited, we're good. And I think for me, it's really been like all of the hacks that have happened recently. I mean, Binance, they were hacked for about 600 million. I think it's like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and their BNB chain had been live for, I don't know, since 2019, I want to say, and billions had gone through it, and it wasn't found until just then. And they have such a good engineering team. I know that they've probably done so many audits, and yet their contract was still vulnerable. And so to me, there's this idea of, audits aren't the end all be all solution, and there needs to be more. And I think as crypto just continues to grow, as its ecosystem evolves, as we learn more, as we see and experience more things, I think we'll continue to evolve and iterate what best practices are. And to me, like the bug bounty program, I mean, a year ago, I would have said that wasn't pretty standard, right? But I think as this ecosystem and community has evolved, now it is becoming more standard, and so we have an opportunity to sort of be at the forefront of it and kind of be a leader and at least show, hey, we are thinking about it. So that's my thought on timing. I mean, I know I liked what you started off with, for safety and security. I don't think timing can ever be wrong. Obviously, I wish I had thought of this idea sooner, but hindsight's 2020.
I actually wanted to touch on that too, Maria. There's been a lot of comments around blaming the special counsel for letting this happen, for not putting up this AIP earlier. And I just wanted to clear the air a little bit and let everyone know that we're kind of all responsible in this for this DAO as a whole. And so it's kind of it's kind of disingenuous to kind of put blame on the one person that's actually trying to do something about it.
Yeah, thank you for the reply, Maria. Yeah. In fact, honestly, I also think that after the audit report came out, I just personally went through it very quickly, and also I'm not an expert, but as there were a few critical issues, I believe that everyone would believe that an additional check via this bounty program could be helpful, actually. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we open the floor, maybe for some questions? We've got maybe 15 minutes left.
So this morning there was I mean, maybe we can just talk about Vendout for a second. Because I saw that there's been some back and forth on that. So Vendout, I believe, has a proposal out where they want to create their own pools where NFT owners who don't maybe necessarily hold Apecoin, they can sort of come into this one pool where they can be matched with Apecoin, and then the rewards are shared evenly. And so it goes, I think it goes a little bit against the ethos of what the intention of this AIP was. But the reason why they're able to do it, like, one, smart contracts are open and anyone can, build on top of it. And so that's one part of this. The second part is that there was a decision made to allow other smart contracts to interact with the staking smart contract, and so you couldn't just limit it. And the reason for doing that is we wanted to give access to multi-sig holders. So if you hold if your Bored Ape NFT is like in a Gnosis multi-sig, that is a smart contract. It's a smart contract wallet, and if you would just prevent or not allow anyone to interact with the with the staking smart contract with their own smart contract, you eliminate all the holders who are holding maybe their NFT or even their Apecoin in a multi-sig. And that's actually I think it's probably a pretty big audience. People, it's more secure. People who hold NFTs or tokens with other community, other members, right? Like, they typically hold it in a multi-sig. So that was one of the reasons why that specific piece was allowed, I think, in the design of the smart contract. Now, it is a bummer that Vendout or those holders can take advantage of the program, even though they might not hold an NFT or they hold Apecoin. But I think that's a feature, not a bug, of this entire system. And so part of what I also think about is, the great thing about blockchain is that anyone can build on top of stuff. And so if you also limit smart contract, interactions, you're kind of also limiting what people can do and all the interesting things that they can build. So my thought on that is, I don't know, like, it's an opt-in process. And so we'll see how many people actually participate in it. But I just wanted to bring that up because I saw that people were talking about it today.
Yeah, we've got Pirate Code here, the co-founder of Vendout, if he wants to talk about it a little. Overall, I agree with you 100%, Maria. There should be no gatekeeping of any kind on the smart contract level.
Yeah, and the other thing I will say is that Vendout is, I mean, we should definitely bring him up because I actually want to hear how they're thinking about it. But in this, the way that the program was structured in itself, there is a cap on how much rewards each NFT can obtain. And so, like, theoretically, Vendout aside, I mean, if 100% of NFTs stake at 100% and stake the max cap that they can, I mean, that would happen anyway. And so, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I agree with that. Look, I think that in the early days, there's an airdrop from Azuki community, and those Azuki developers think like smart contract interaction is dangerous. They banned the smart contract interaction, and we told them it's not right, because if you're going to build smart contract, the composability is very important for everyone can build on top of it. That's how Web3 works. So I think generally, like, that's why I think I was so bullish on Yoga system, because Yoga knows how smart contract is going to change the world, and it's more like Lego. So when you got launched like Apecoin and these, and you got not ban like smart contract like address, like each of the like Genesis safe wallet can interact with them, and I think in the future, social wallet will become like the main people going to enter the Web3 because EOA account is so easy to stolen. So even like Ethereum Foundation is talk about accelerating the abstract contract. So I think in generally we are going to going to a new age of the social wallet and smart contract wallet, and ban smart contract interaction is not a good idea. So if you're going to build if you're going to build something in Web3, don't like ban like smart contract interaction. That's not the right way. Yeah, I think it's the right direction you guys going to. Yeah, even if you ban like smart contract, people will send coin and send like BAKC to those Apecoin MT holders, and it will become more like lock pools for individual. It brings a disaster to a community. So I think we are trying to build something on top of like smart contract and make more people in interaction. When Apecoin holders join this smart contract, and they will know much more MT holders. Let's help people connecting together. I think we should focus on more about connecting people together, community ERC20 people, connecting MT people, and that build Yuga system even more growth, bigger. Yeah, I think that's help a lot.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I wanted to get into some questions I have in my DMs. Some of these questions aren't directed, at you, Maria, but kind of more general for everyone to start thinking about. So one of the questions from Dr. Novo, there's been one audit by one engineer already. Shouldn't the next line of defense be at least one more audit by a separate party? And again, these aren't directed at anybody, but I guess I could answer this. I think, yeah, having more audits, of course, is definitely always valuable, but it doesn't solve. An audit is just a single one-off event. It doesn't give us any ongoing protections.
That's right. And I think a full complete audit, probably in the time horizon that we're talking about, like I don't think it's viable. But what we could do, so someone from the community actually like sent me a link to Code for Arena, which is I think they can run short contests like that are essentially like audit contests. It's similar to like running a bug bounty program, right? It's like you run this just for audits, like 48 hours. And so we can actually also within the proposal, I was thinking it might be valuable because it might be valuable to have like run this program for maybe like 48 hours, very short time, like 48 hours or something like that, and have like just a ton of resources concentrated on it. So run this program and then also have a longer bounty program with an Immunify or and that's kind of the structure that I'm thinking about. I don't think another full audit from like Trail of Bits or someone like that is reasonable. I mean, all of those audit firms are very like there's a lot of demand for their services, and so oftentimes what I've seen is that the audit period, like they're scheduling things like 3 months in advance, and so I think that's probably not. I don't think that's feasible for us, but I do like Code for Arena, and so if anyone has any other resources like that, please put them in the forum. Like it'd be great to see what else is out there.
Awesome. Yeah, just moving on to the next question in my DMs, and again, not directed at anybody, and I'm going to try and answer this from Dirk Targan. Who determines when Horizon launches? How can this bug bounty program create a delay? If this can be answered to more clearly understand how the DAO structure works. From my understanding, again, like as a part of a DAO, it's kind of us who determines when Horizon actually launches. They have their own internal guidelines, of course, but if this AIP passes implementing a bug bounty program, because the AIP was launched 3 months after the staking AIP was passed, this AIP would actually take precedent over it, and it would override and extend the date.
Well, and I think the Horizon indicated like they're ready to go 1031, launching the UI and then funding the contract on 1114. And the delta between those two is one, so people can just like pre-commit their NFTs or their Apecoins. There's no like gas war for everyone to get in like immediately when the smart contract goes live. And so I think this would basically just push that out maybe a little bit. Whether it's a week, 2 weeks, whether we don't do it, if it doesn't pass, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, whatever. So I think it really depends on what we decide in the end, like what the program should look like and what goes to Snapshot for a vote, which will have very clear guidelines of like, this is what we recommend. And then it would just push out the dates depending on that. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Derek, you can comment in my DMs if that's not. That's kind of all I have right now for my DMs. I'm checking again really quick. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yes, Pirate, you wanted to chime in again? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the best thing is like every people build on top of the Apecoin staking contract. Like our developers, we check the code once the code is released in testnet. So we are going to help. Like if we find any bug, we will report it in the first time. So I think more people come to join the build on top of it is the better thing. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
And by the way, so the contract is live on testnet right now. So anyone can go and they can review the documentation. They can review the code. So that is already live. I can't remember what the URL is, but I think it's docs.apestake.io is the URL that has the staking contract. It's live on testnet, so you can actually go and mint fake testnet, BAYC or MAYC NFTs, and you can actually like use the contract. So it is live. There's just no official bounty bug program in place yet, and that's
Got it. Thanks, Pirate, for chiming in, for speaking on the panel. Mari did a great job. It's a really thorough proposal. Obviously, some tweaks need to happen, but appreciate you coming up here, taking feedback from everybody. Thanks for all the questions. We're coming to the end of the hour. Sorry we didn't have time to bring everybody up, but do keep sharing comments in the proposal itself in this version and in future iterations. And like we said at the top of the hour, we're going to try to continue to do these. They're getting a lot of positive reactions, and hopefully we'll have several proposals to discuss in the coming weeks. Thanks everybody for tuning in on a Friday, and we'll be back soon with more proposals. Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
I think I did it again. I made you believe we're more than just friends. Oh, baby, it might seem like a cry, but it doesn't mean that I'm serious. 'Cause you lose all my senses. That is just so typically me. Oh, baby, oops, I did it again. I played with you.